before the influence of the wars overseas and the so-called terrorist attack. The thing is, the other war that's been going on for a long time, which has been a terrible war against our liberties, always well-intended, because the government is the only one that knows what is best for you, what you should put in your mouth and put in your lungs. This war on drugs has been a disaster. Hysteria in Washington about not being allowed to raise hemp. It really fascinates me. Oh, well, we made that illegal when we went after those people who were smoking marijuana, so we had to throw in the hemp as well. But, you know, legalizing hemp, I have a bill on that. I can't get anybody to pay any attention to it. And it's, you know, unbelievable that happens. Not too long ago, a couple years ago, somebody asked me to introduce a bill that would make sure that you could have ready access to raw milk. And I thought, well, who would really care about that, because I wasn't drinking raw milk. But I said, no, I'll introduce the bill. What the heck? Why shouldn't you have freedom of choice? You should have a right to drink raw milk. So you'll know when we're winning at home on our civil liberties when you can grow hemp and drink raw milk.
Yeah! Put that man in the White House.
Well, I better talk to you about the economy. The economy, like I said at the beginning, is in shambles. That's the bad news. But the good news is if we did the right thing, it wouldn't be that bad. Even with all the mistakes made of all these years, 30, 40, 50 years of malinvestment, excessive debt, pyramiding of debt, over-regulation, all these problems built into the system, you know, could be corrected rather easily by just getting out of the way. It's sort of like correct our problems on foreign policy, just come home. Well, on economics, just get the government out of the way.
Yeah!
One example of what we could have done a couple years ago when the crisis hit was to, instead of taking any more money from the people or printing more money or borrowing more money and doing the same thing that caused the problem, what we could have done was just get rid of the income tax. Let you keep everything. That is not a complex issue. The issue is, do you have a right to your life? Certainly. You should own your life. It's your life. You just can't use your life or your property to hurt anybody else, but it's your life to do with what you want and assume responsibility for it. If you want to wreck your life, you have to be responsible for it. But if it's your life and it's your responsibility and you have the incentive to work hard and earn something, you ought to have the right to keep the fruits of your labor. Has been designed to make sure that you know the government owns you. Even at the beginning, at the very beginning, if it says 1% on a few people over maximum income are going to be charged taxes, that was the principle. 100% of the principle was accepted that eventually, you know, blossomed into the monster that we have now, the tax code. But this means that the government owns you, owns what you earn, and permits you to keep a certain percentage. And they hold you in check. Another example of what the government does to so many, to emphasize who owns us, and that is when you're 18. Still, you know, we haven't had a draft for some 30-some years, but they still make young people register because, you know, they might need them someday. But it's also to make sure that they know that they are obligated. And besides, if you don't register, they come knocking on your door. Why didn't you register? They know where everybody is. But because of the danger spreading in the Middle East and because of the shortage of troops and all the problems we have, I am fearful that there are some in Washington that would come back, but I hope and pray that we never have to depend on the military draft again. We've allowed our executive branch of government to get too big. The Congress is derelict in their duties, not only in that they won't keep a tab and audit the Federal Reserve and they give this power to the Federal Reserve, but think of all the power given to the executive branch of government. The President can write executive orders and signing statements, do what he wants, start war when he wants, and the executive branch writes laws. And they shouldn't be allowed to write law. The Congress is supposed to write law. Whose fault is that? Presidents take the power when it's left out there or granted by the Congress, but it's the Congress's fault. This is where the action should be. The Congress should have never given up their prerogatives and their responsibility to the executive branch, and they shouldn't give it up to the courts either.
Fire Congress!
There's an easy provision in the Constitution that easily could rein in the courts, and that is take away their jurisdiction. It's a vehicle that is available with a majority vote. You don't have to amend the Constitution and just say, look, if you have certain laws in this state and we pass a law and they cannot even hear the cases. But the whole issue of what the states might do and the individuals might do is going to be a continued issue. And I think what we should do when the liberals sometimes annoy me. Ever annoy you? They get on TV and they mock people now who would talk about nullification or interposition or oath keepers. Now, why should they be scared about somebody saying, well, I'm going to make my oath of office, or I'm going to make my oath if I'm in law enforcement? I mean, why should they be so frightened? It's because they think they'll be used to enforce or prohibit things that they don't like or like. They don't like what the issue is. But why shouldn't they be just as interested? There was a time when they used interposition and nullification when the slave laws, the fugitive slaves law was passed. There were a lot of states in the North that ignored these things and got in the way of the federal government and said that you have to. What about during the civil rights marches? When you want somebody in the police force that wouldn't shoot their neighbors and friends or neighbors in the community because they're marching against an illegal, unconstitutional law of segregation, but we should use that against them. There's reason for us to be optimistic because of what's happening, and I am very pleased with what I find around the country. And of course, I go to the university and see so many young people, and I believe the young people have to be involved, or it's not a true revolution. And others say, well, I'm not so young anymore, but we're all young at heart because we believe in liberty. Take this concept of liberty and put it back together again, because 100 years ago or so they came along with some way of dividing liberty up and saying, oh, some people can defend personal liberty. Yeah, we don't